Hey, what's up guys? So I hope you're doing well. Are you dealing with slow eBay sales? If so, then today in this video, we're going to go over some proven strategies that you can use to stop slow eBay sales before they even happen. A lot of it's familiar to a lot of you, but if you're a new seller especially, I think this could help you. So let's jump right into the topic. So one of the worst feelings we have as resellers is just sitting around waiting on that phone to go cha-ching, right? We're just hoping for a sale, wondering why things aren't moving. We work really hard, we list. We go out, we source, we're doing our best, especially when we're first starting out. It can be kind of disheartening when you seem like you're waiting hours and hours turn into days and days turns into a week, and you're wondering, why haven't I sold an item? Why have I only sold, 3 or 4 items in the last couple of weeks? And like I said, especially when you're starting out. Now, this may not be as much for seasoned resellers as for beginner resellers, but if you are a seasoned reseller, it's good reminders. And the first strategy that I would say is really important for an eBay seller to master is to source the right items. All right, so if you are a new reseller, or even if you are a seasoned reseller, the very first thing that you need to pay attention to is sell-through rate. Sell-through rate is going to have the biggest impact on the speed of your sales. Now, look, it's not the end-all be-all of reselling, and I know there's people that have very strong opinions on both sides of this. Some will say, sell-through rate doesn't mean anything. And, to be quite honest, though, there are naysayers out there. Don't let them fool you. Don't let them get in your head. If eBay's not really performing like you want it to, and your sales are slow, then chances are the things that you are listing, the things that you are sourcing are just not good items. I mean, that's just the reality. We've all been there. I do it. Sometimes I feel pressure to just buy things when I'm out because I haven't found anything good. And it leads me to picking up things that just sit in a death pile because I know they're not going to move. And I've got to work on that myself. The fact of the matter is, if an item has a super fast sell-through rate, super high, if it's 100% or above, then typically it's going to sell pretty fast. If you list it right, get everything else right, it's going to sell. And I mean, what are we looking for? We're looking for a way to speed up slow sales. So the better items that you source, the better the sell-through rates of those items, the faster they're going to move. That being said, if you're a new reseller, it's really important that as soon as you can that you learn how to accurately determine what sell-through rate is for items. A lot of new resellers will make the mistake when they're starting out of just looking at listed comps and thinking, well, because this particular item has a high list price, it must be a great item. And we find out pretty quickly once we get deeper into reselling that has often very little to do with whether or not an item is valuable and whether or not there is an actual market for the item. What you got to learn to do is compare those listed items to the sold listings, and by that figure out what kind of percentage of them are selling. I will say, on the side of people who would argue that sell-through rate is not that big of a factor, that sales volume can also be something to consider. Sometimes in a very crowded category like clothing, where there's lots of options, you get down all the way to something, say like Levi's jeans, you look at 550s, there's going to be thousands listed, but you're also going to see a very high sales volume. Now, if you compare the sales volume to the listed quantity, you're going to find that the sell-through rate is not that great. However, if you're able to look at what is the sell-through rate at particular price points, you may find that sell-through rate improves. Sometimes something with a really high sell-through rate only has 100 sales every 90 days, but you may have 5,000 of that particular style of Levi's that sells every 90 days. So we know there's a big market out there. And that's why sometimes even an item without a great sell-through rate may list and sell quickly if you get it right, The goal then is not so much about sell-through rate, but figuring out how to, with our descriptions, with our prices and all those things, and how we budget our sourcing as far as how much we spend per item to get ourselves in position to be able to sell in those categories as well. But I think as a new reseller, the best thing that you can do, the best strategy, is focus on sell-through rate and try to only buy as many items as possible that have really high sell-through rates. Don't worry about the size of your store, worry about the quality of the items in your store. I've been telling this to my son, trying to help him because he's got a full-time job that's really busy and he's trying to sell a little bit on the side. And I mean, I think that's great. I think it's great to look for sources of extra income, to look for ways to supplement. And, it's something that I think could really benefit him and a lot of other people. But I've also emphasized to him the importance of not filling up a store with a bunch of mediocre inventory that just sits on the shelves, because at the end of the day, when it just sits and it doesn't move, it can also have a negative impact on the overall performance of your store at large. And we don't want that. We want eBay to send traffic to our store, and the better our store performs, the more traffic they will send our way. All right, so let's take a look at some items that I've sold recently, and we'll come back and discuss our second point that you need to be watching out for if you want to remedy slow eBay sales before they even start. All right, so let's take a look at a few of the sales that we have going out the door today. And the first of these, I'm gonna go over some of the music sales. Of course, I always have music sales, it seems like these days. That is becoming a niche that I really enjoy, and I know that's tied to my background with music. But let's take a look at those. No really big ones today, but still want to just keep you up to date on how this stuff is moving. So this first one is from one of my oldest music buys when I bought kind of a bulk amount, and this is the Chick Corea band, and there are four of these CDs. I sold these for $12.97 plus shipping. So the buyer was all in $19.86 on those. I also have this Spirit Feedback, and this is from my large music buy. This only sold for $3.99. So I mean, some would say, what's the point? Well, I mean, I took 3 pictures. You know, it was easy to list. I had this listed in just a minute or so. And again, sold for $4. The buyer's all in at $9.46 plus the shipping cost. And I have 30 cents in this, so I still made a huge profit percentage-wise. All right, this next music sale is Darlene Zesch. I'm probably butchering that name, and some of y'all are gonna know how to say it. I can't do nothing about it, you know, I'm sorry. I don't know how to say it, but she is often with Hillsong. You'll see her as one of the featured singers with Hillsong. So this is Christian music. This is also from my big lot. This is 3 discs here, and these sold for $9.99 plus shipping. And again, about 90 cents into $10. The buyer was all in $15.64 on that with shipping. And my last one then is Country Joe. This is the Collected Country Joe, sorry, and the Fish. It's 1965 to 1970. And this again from my big music buy, $11.78 is what the buyer spent on this one. And they were all in $17.12. So again, music is a good niche to look into. There's money to be made in music. By the way, if you haven't noticed, I do have this LA Dodgers hat on. I'm not really a Dodgers fan, but you know, if it's the Yankees or the Dodgers, y'all forgive me, but I'm gonna go Dodgers all the way on that one. I don't have a strong rooting connection to any baseball team. I really like the Braves. The Braves being more local, I tend to go with them. All right, so the next thing that you're going to want to do in order to stop slow eBay sales before they start is learn how to accurately and strategically price your inventory for faster sales. Now, that's a mouthful, and it's easier said sometimes than done. Trust me, I feel like I'm still learning about this myself. But that said, understand that, you know, we mentioned high sell-through rate items and that being important. So that's part of understanding the market. And I think that's where this starts. You have to understand the market size and market demand for the inventory that you're working with. So when you understand the market for the items you're listing, then you can move on to pricing. And when you're pricing, sometimes you can price near the top of the market. It all depends on how strong the sales are for that item. Now, I would never suggest that you outprice the market. There's very few circumstances, you know, and again, there's always outliers. Let me just go ahead and point that out. When you look up and you look at comps on solds for items, you're going to find outliers that don't make sense, that the price is really high, and some that it is really low. And sometimes that has to do with small nuances in the items that can make them more valuable, but oftentimes they're just aberrations from the norm. So if you want to see your items move, you normally, if you know them well, you have to price within the boundaries of what is acceptable and normal for those items. So I would look at it like this. Since this is kind of a nuanced topic, if you have very high sell-through rates and a low volume of items listed for that item, then you probably can stay closer to the top of the market on those items more easily and expect to be able to get your price out of them. Now, on the other hand, you could have very high sell-through rate, but also a high volume of those items listed. So, you know, if you've got 150% sell-through, but there's still 1,000 listed like it, then you're going to have to be maybe a little more competitive, and with your prices reach more into maybe like the top third or so. Stay near the middle on the accepted price ranges. That is, if you want to see it fast. I would never tell you that you can't sell it and shoot for the moon. We can list everything near the top of the market, and we'll still have sales, and we'll sell some things that others don't for higher prices. But if the goal is to move inventory faster and to see it turn over, then we have to think strategically about how we price and be more nuanced in our approach to match the nuances of the market. So all that's good, but then I think the question could be, are there times when we have to price more aggressively? And the answer to that question is yes. If we're wanting to stop slow sales before they start, then sometimes you have to get aggressive with your pricing. Now, in order to do this, you have to be careful not to overspend on your inventory. You have to have the flexibility to price aggressively. And that really relates to items that don't have these super high sell-through rates, and yet they have a very high demand in the market, high sales volume, with still a pretty decent sell-through rate, say 50% or above. And in those cases, in order for us to move those items fast, we can't price in the top third of prices. We're going to have to move that price down, maybe to the bottom third, and sometimes we may have to go to the extreme of trying to kind of undercut. Now, there's going to be exceptions to that. Again, outliers, some that run, fire sales and sell things for almost nothing. If there's 1,000 sales, you're going to have to sort them from least to highest price and scroll down about 100 sales before you kind of get to where the bottom of the actual everyday, like buy it now type market is. But once you're there, you've got a good idea of where your price needs to land in these areas in order to sell an item fast. And if we're talking about not just selling it, but selling it fast, again, you could, in these categories, theoretically list an item at the top of the market. It goes live, and just the right person sees it. They don't care about price. They hit buy, and it's sold. I mean, that can happen for any of us. But if you fill your store with those types of items at those prices, you will have a lot of inventory sitting and not moving. So if you price just $5 too high, you could price yourself plumb out of the market. In fact, in some cases, you could be priced just $1 or $2 too high and make it very difficult to sell an item. Where, if you price $1 or $2 below what the normal selling price is, you could speed the process of moving a particular item up even more. So we do want to price competitively, but I will say this, we don't want to price competitively at the sacrifice of compromising our profit margins. So keep that in mind. But remember, the goal is to stop slow sales before they start. And to do that, sometimes we have to rethink our pricing strategies and make sure that what we're doing is allowing us to be as competitive as possible when we compare ourselves and what we are selling to everyone else in the market. All right, so next up, I've got a few more sales that I want to look at, and these are retail arbitrage sales. Now, I would not suggest that you get too aggressive early on if you're a reseller with retail arbitrage, but there is a lot of opportunity there. And if you really pay attention, like for instance, Walmart has different levels of markdown. So if you're buying from the Walmart clearance aisle, you probably aren't going to buy very often when it's the first stage of markdown. But if those items sit long enough and they make it to the second or third stage of their markdown system before being removed from the shelf, then sometimes on certain items, toys and electronics, various things, you can find some really good deals to flip. And sometimes they're obscure items. I've bought lots of different things. I've hit good home runs at Walmart, and then I have also been victimized, if you will, because of my lack of knowledge in certain things and maybe being too gung-ho, too aggressive, wanting it too badly to work out, and then spend money that I can't recoup, at least not in a way to make much profit. So this first one is a set of 3 of these Better Homes and Gardens, the little scent refills that go in the wall mount, fragrance oil refills, whatever they are. But these are dark midnight skies. And I bought these, they had clearanced all of these out at my local store for $0.25 a piece. There were tons of them. And I bought a bunch of them that day because, they're normally several, a few dollars each. And I'm going to have to go back and work on my prices a little bit. I think I'm just a couple of dollars too high. I've got most of them lotted in sets of 3. These sold on an offer for $10. So I've got 75 cents into $10. And then buyer is all in $20.53 plus shipping. And this other one is a really cool sale. So I love toys, vintage or otherwise. I loved dinosaurs when I was a kid. I think probably every kid loves dinosaurs. And I bought 4 of these. I probably should have bought more, but I didn't want to gamble too much on them. I bought 4 of these Jurassic Park dinosaurs. These are the Epic Evolution. I've got the Megalosaurus, the, yeah, that one, you can say it. What's this? The Griposaurus. Looks kind of like a crocodile. And I've got this one, which is the, yeah, another one of those. I'll let you pronounce it, but I've got that one too. So I bought 4 of these as a set, and I gave $7 a piece for these. So I'm in these, tax and all, say about 30 bucks. And I sold these for $69.99, $70 plus shipping. And so the buyer is all in $92.54. And I think I'm going to probably have, you know, $5 or $6 shipping wise. Of course, that's not accounting for my cost of the box and that kind of stuff. But nevertheless, I'm going to end up turning, you know, like $30 into, say, you know, 70 bucks. And then I know you got to take the fees and all out of that, but I should come close to doubling my money. I know I'm going to make, you know, at least $25 or so off of that sale. So again, this is a good example where I'm making, as far as actual money back in my pocket, a lot more than the air freshener refills. But my percentage of profit, or my profit margin, like, is not near as big, right? Because I'm barely going to double my money maybe on that, maybe a little more, but barely double it. And then with these others, you know, you're talking about like 10 times your money. So, you know, smaller number of dollars, right? So they both work. They both have their purpose. But again, just like in the tips, like I've been telling you, you got to be careful what you buy, because you can overinvest and put yourself in a situation where you're kind of at a deficit, and it's hard to recoup and make a profit. You want to have flexibility in your pricing to be able to price competitively, price aggressively, and if something sets too long, be able to discount, run sales, run promotions, and not risk losing money if possible. All right, and again, retail arbitrage, you got to be careful with, because that's an easier place. You usually have more invested per item, but it's also new. It's very easy to process, ship, look up, all that kind of stuff. That helps a lot. So our first 2 strategies that we've gone over that are kind of simple, tried and true strategies to stop slow eBay sales before they even start is to buy really good inventory, you know, pay attention to sell-through rate, but also to make sure that we are pricing our items accurately and appropriately so that we are competitive in the market. Now, both of those things are great. You can buy high sell-through rate items, you can price them correctly, but this last one, if you miss on this, it can still hinder how fast your items sell, because it can hinder people from finding them. So the last proven strategy is to make great titles and make use of really good keywords so that people can find your items and that it moves itself further to the top, right? So that it comes up near the top of search results, and people are more likely then to get eyes on your item. And the more eyes that are on your items, the faster they will sell, no matter what. That's just across the board. You can't sell something people don't see. Sometimes in town, I go in these booths, like in these flea malls, and guys, I mean, they're just so packed out. They got like a little tiny little spot, little 8x10 area, and they got enough stuff to fill up 3 areas that size. And I step into it. I kind of glance around a little bit. I don't want to break anything. I don't want to knock stuff over. I end up just moving on to the next one, because they have so much you can't even see. Boxes full of stuff, tons of items piled on top of each other. If we're not careful, that's the way it will kind of happen to our inventory. If we do not make good titles and if we don't use the right keywords, we can cause our items to be buried under so many other listings when people search for them that we just don't get the eyes needed on our inventory in order to make the sales. So be careful of that. It is a common mistake. I still make this mistake. I still mess up titles. And let's talk a little bit about some things that you want to make sure of. Okay, so take advantage of your item specifics. If it's in the item specifics, it's already going to show up in search results. So be careful not to waste important space in your title on things that are already covered in item specifics and that are already going to be factored into the algorithm as searches are conducted. Just don't waste that space. Use that title for the most important things. Front load your title. That's another tip. Front load your title, especially the first 5 words or so of your title, with the absolute most important things about the item that you are selling. That is so important. If you're not sure about this, do some searches. Go through and look at sold results Scroll through some of them, look at some of these that have, check out the seller of the item. If they have sold, thousands of items, they're probably a really experienced and a really successful eBay seller. And, once you know that, you can go and look at how they arrange their titles, and it gives you a lot of clue on that specific item that you're comping on how you maybe should arrange the title for your item in order to get eyes on it and to get more attention and to be presenting the right items to the seller and to the algorithm first in the lead part of that title. So front load it. And again, avoid those redundancies. If you're saying it in the title, it's not necessarily necessary to say it again in the item specifics, but use those item specifics to your advantage. That's one of the best places to fit and stuff all those extra keywords that are going to help you get attention on your particular item that you're trying to sell. So keep all this in mind as you go forward. Now, our last category today that we're looking at with things that I've sold is going to be the clothing category. And of course, it's been kind of up and down for me. I haven't listed a lot of clothing in the last few months, so my clothing sales have been down, even though I got quite a bit listed. I mean, it's probably a third to one half of my store. I do need to go back through, reprocess that. I need to end, sell similar, update the listings, that kind of stuff. I've got some really good items, and some of it's selling, but I find it interesting. One of the things, I think this would be a great experiment for eBay is as I've started back listing clothing the last couple of weeks, I've of course been selling clothing that I have listed, but I've also been selling more items of my old stock that's been setting. It's like by listing in the clothing category, I've brought more attention back to the clothing part of my store, and even my older items are getting more views and more sales. And that's cool, I'll take it. But it's amazing how those things are often related. Let's take a look at the clothing sales. I just listed these. This is a vintage pair of 555s, 3832 blue jeans. So the 555, similar to the 550s, but these have a pretty good sell-through rate. I want to say it's at least like 60%. It might be better than that. I can't remember for sure. But this is a decent pair to buy if you see them and they're a good price, the 555. I don't think they make these right now. I don't think there's 555s available for sale. That often helps the market on these. But I sold these for $21 plus shipping, and the buyer's all in $33.10 with the shipping charges. Now, these aren't like a huge high dollar made in USA Levi, but I only gave $2 for them. So 2 into 21, they sold like the next day after I listed them. It's worth the time. All right, the next clothing item I have is a pair of Liberty overalls. Now, these are in really good shape, and they're a big size, a 44-30. Liberty overalls can sell pretty well. They're not going to sell for huge money. If you research them, you'll see some upwards of 25 to 30 bucks, especially if they still have the tags on them, maybe even 35. But those are outliers. Most of the time with this market, you're looking at really maybe like $18 to $24. Now, some other factors can influence it, like the age. If they are old enough, sometimes that will drive the price up a little bit. If they're, identifiably maybe from the 70s or before, like most clothing items, that can affect value. But these, just a modern example, and they sold again for $19.97. The buyer was all in $33.03 on those. All right, this next item, this is a pair of kind of like, they're Polo Ralph Lauren shorts, kind of like a preppy style. It's got the horse there in pink. But this is not the Madras, not the stitched fabric type Madras, but kind of has that look of the Madras fabric. So just a multicolored plaid, a really cool pair of shorts. And these are more like a swimming trunk. They do have a mesh lining, but they're more of a cottony feel, the actual shorts. These sold for $14.97, sold really fast. I listed these, they sold within a couple of days, and the buyer's all in $23.08. And again, this is like a $2 buy. All right, next item, this is a pair of Cinch jeans. Cinch is a really good brand. You wanna look for that label. That label comes in various colors. Each color typically represents a different style. You can go on the website for Cinch and they will have a list, and each of them are named so you can get the specifics for your particular pair of jeans. I forget what these were. Let's see, these were the relaxed fit straight leg. And so you can find that information on their site. If it's white, if it's blue, if it's black, if it's green. And then they also have some like the Cinch Grant jeans. You got different designations, and different ones of them sell for different prices. Some are more popular than others, but overall, Cinch products, be it their shirts or their jeans, are going to sell pretty good. These sold for $18.99 plus shipping. I realize some of you are probably going to, if you sell this stuff, may say, well, you could have got $25 for those. And maybe I could have if I had settled them for a long time. My thing is, that's $4 or $5. I'm in these at like $2. And I was able to turn these over, flip them, make my profit in like 2 to 3 days because I priced them in that bottom tier of the solds. You know, I like to do that sometimes. Some sellers don't like to do it that way. I don't want to leave money on the table, but I do want to move inventory. And so these sold again, $18.99. The buyer was all in, $32.68. And because I do buyer pay shipping on all my items, again, there's generally $1 or $2 that goes back to me for shipping supplies. And that's a little more than what I spend typically on my shipping supplies. So there'll be a little more profit in there just from the shipping. All right, 2 more clothing items. These last 2 are really bolos to watch out for. I think everyone knows about this one. These are Rock Revival blue jeans. Rock Revival is a premium denim brand. They are really expensive when they are new. I say that there are definitely brands that are more expensive, designer brands, but for ordinary, you know, for people like me, I've never bought these myself out of the store, but for people like that live around here, this would be a really high-end pair of blue jeans for them. I mean, people around here for the most part, they're not wearing Gucci or Armani or things like that. And so this is like the higher tier of what you might see. These were the Rhett, a 3431. I listed these. I listed 2 pair of these actually. I got both of them, and this is from thrift store. I actually paid up for these. I paid like $13 a pair for this, and then another pair of these, the Dimitri Rock Revival. And both of them sold within 3 days of listing, and they sold for over $60. This pair sold for $61.19 is what it come out to. $61.19. $77.55 was the buyer's all-in price with the shipping. And so, you know, like I said, some may see that as leaving money on the table. I see it as pricing to where mine move quickly. If I'd have put the extra $10 to $15 on my price and tried to force them, and by the way, I priced them at $69.99. That's where I set my price. And I always set my price knowing that I'm willing to negotiate a little bit from that price. But typically on a high-end item, you know, again, 13 into $60, I'm gonna take that. I'm looking to move inventory, but that's a good bolo. If you don't know about Rock Revival and you are dabbling in clothing or thinking about it, that's a fantastic brand to look out for. It's something I'll show you and you can watch for. You don't have to dig through all of the jeans to find higher end jeans generally if you're at a thrift store. You can walk down the aisle and look for this heavy double stitching. Okay, this heavy stitching, see the pocket, so a lot of times the way they're hanging, see on the belt loop, you'll be able to see that heavy stitching, big thread, big stitches, and that's not always. There are low tier brands that use that, but that's going to be a clue that it could be something like Rock Revival. And so that's a good way to look out for those. Rock Revival buckle, different brands like that, but especially Rock Revival. It's a good one to snag if you see it on the rack. This last one is a true bolo. I stumbled on this at a yard sale, and it's my last sale that I'm showing you today. This is like a tapestry jacket. It's from a tapestry weaver group known as Sugar Street Weavers. And you can't see much about this on the camera, but I will put up a thumbnail so you can see it. This is a beautiful Christmas tapestry jacket in fantastic condition. And again, Sugar Street Weavers. This is made in USA. Sugar Street Weavers. This is a definite bolo. If you find Sugar Street Weavers anything, it's not all Christmas. There's all kinds of different tapestry patterns that you can find, but it's not something you're going to find often. So I'd say, you know, just keep it in the back of your mind of that Rolodex. When you see something like that, this sold for $70 plus shipping, $69.99. And so I only had, I think it was like $3 in it. So I can't remember now exactly. I know it was less than $5. It was from a yard sale, but say like $3. So I sold that for $70. The buyer's all in $97.43, and that's actually going overseas, I think, to Ireland or Northern Ireland. So that's pretty cool that it's going all the way over there, right? So that's all the sales I have for you today. So let's quickly recap. If you want to truly stop slow eBay sales before they start, if you're a new reseller or an experienced reseller, you've got to pay attention to sell-through rate first. make sure that the inventory that you are sourcing is good inventory. You can't sell bad inventory. You can place bad inventory on 18 different selling platforms, and it don't matter if you try to give it away. People are just not going to be interested. If it doesn't have a market, it's not going to sell. And honestly, it needs a good market. So make sure you pay attention to that. Also, don't forget that it's important that we price it correctly. You can price yourself out of the market with just a couple of dollars. Know the nuances of the items you're listing so you know when you can command the top of the market and when you can't. Those things do vary, and it varies from item to item and category to category. Know when you have to hit the bottom of the pricing market. Know when you have to even undercut in order for those particular items to move. It's not necessarily always a bad buy if something doesn't have a super fast sell through. Maybe it's got 60% sell through, but you have a high volume of sales. Don't forget that, but you have to price it well if you want it to move. And finally, none of that matters if you don't have good titles and good keywords. So make sure that you use your title well. Don't use redundancies. Make sure you take advantage of item specifics to fit those extra keywords that won't go into your title, and make sure that your items are coming up in search results. Guys, I hope you've enjoyed the video. Hope you got something out of it to benefit you. Maybe a couple of bolos, maybe some help with your listings to get items moving. These 3 strategies are by no means the only strategies to get items moving in your store or to stop slow eBay sales before they start. But these are 3 that I think are really helpful when you're starting out. You get these 3 right, you can build from there as you learn and grow on the eBay platform, and for that matter, on any other reselling platform that you choose to use. So guys, again, just a reminder, I love you. God loves you. I appreciate you watching. If you're not subscribed, hit that subscribe button. Give me that thumbs up. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think. Any ideas for future videos. And whatever you do, always remember, don't you ever, ever give up. And I will see you on the next one.